So, and what they're gonna do is, it sort of worked out really in our favor a little bit more, but they thought they was gonna have to leave and then try to come back. But it worked out that what they're gonna do is, David, as soon as they finish this one at Mad Landing, they're gonna run to Heron and do a change. So then when they get that one done, they can come back. So what you drain it, or you just drain it out, or drain it completely dry.
Yeah, not that you discharge it out.
Yeah, so, you know, like at last, I dropped that tank down as low as I could do it without taking completely out of pressure. About 11 foot, 11, 12, 13 foot's what I had left.
Getting ready to bang the gavel on
So I went
this
down
right.
there, you know,
I know.
in between the walking tracks, where the walking tracks cross.
Councilman Wright. I'd like to call a work session to order at Kingston City Council. I'd like to ask everyone to please stand. Mr. Brown, if you'd lead us in invocation. Mr. Childs, if you lead us in the pledge of the flag.
Our Heavenly Father, we come to you once again in prayer, asking you to help us as a body make the decisions that are most pleasing to you and to the constituents. And this day in history, a history-making day, we ask that you help us make decisions, that we do it. And remember that we've all got to work together. Please help us to do better jobs than some bodies in this country do. But every day we give you thanks for what all you give to us, like this beautiful day that we have today and the opportunity to come together to meet as a body in a free country. But most of all, we give you praise for your Son. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Do we have any citizens wishing to address the council tonight? All right. Seeing none, we'll go into the first order of business. Number 4, discussion to appropriate an amount not to exceed $15,000 from the fund balance for the purchase of new firearms for the police department. Mr. Baldwin, Mr. Washam.
Thank you, Mayor. You guys, as you see in the memo, this is something that Chief and I have been talking about for a while now, and really hadn't come up with a clear plan how to do it, and started looking. As you know, our court revenue has significantly increased over the last 5 years. In fact, as I point out, it's $40,000 higher than it was 5 years ago. We don't want that to sound like that's the primary objective. Obviously, there's a public safety priority to that, and very proud of the work they've done to slow traffic down and reduce crashes. That's the most important thing. But there has been a monetary gain. Of course, all that money that exceeds budget goes into the fund balance, and that's part of the reason, one of many, that we are fortunate to have a healthy fund balance. What I'd like to do, and what Chief and I are proposing, is to reinvest some of that money back into the department. And we think the purchase of new handguns would be, or new weapons would be a good way to do that. As I said in here, not only, and Chief can speak on this as well, but not only would this equip all of our full-time officers with new weapons, but something I think is great is that for the first time ever, we'd be able to supply weapons to our part-time and reserve volunteers, which the city's never been able to do. And I think that is, that's a great thing if we can get approval to do this. So we'd like to request, and I know that Michelle has a budget amendment that she's working on for this month, so we could easily add this to that. But we'd like to request an appropriation not to exceed $15,000 from the fund balance to allow for this purchase. Chief, if you have anything you want to add to that, certainly feel free. But I think this would be a great investment back to the department that's worked very hard to produce that money. So.
Yeah. Do you have anything, Chief?
The only thing is just two things real quick. One thing is an incentive to get reserves back in the police department. That's one thing. I've been blessed to have plenty of applications for full-time officers. We've not had some of the problems some of the local agencies have had. But just a few years ago, let's go back 8 years, and I had 17 reserves in part-time officers. Now I've got 5 part-time officers and 2
Does anyone on council have any discussion? Mr. Brown?
I think this is a good move. I can remember, for those of you who don't remember, I was started out in Kingston as a police officer in 1971. I furnished my own shoes, my own gun, and my own bullets. And none of us had the same type gun, none of us had the same type bullets. If we'd ever got into each other, I guess we threw what bullets we had left if the other officer needed some. But of course, we only had 5 officers and 2 police cars that never cut them off. You just stepped into one, into the other. So I think it's a move in the right way, but I think it's a good deal.
Anyone else? Oh, sorry.
Departmental issue weapons in 1997. So, you know, what you're talking about, Tony, is not been that long ago, but we all carried something different. Sheriff's Department, Kingston, everybody carried something different. And of course, when you're carrying something different, you've got different ammo, you've got different magazines. And this kind of compacts everything into to make it more safe for all.
And you know, this comes up at, I don't know if it's a good time or a bad time, but you know, one of the counties touching us in Knox County had a police officer in a fatality that was shot responding to domestic violence and just going to somebody's home. Probably the most, I think that the domestic violence calls are probably more dangerous than going to a robbery or something, because you never know when you get there, they usually turn against everybody else and turn against you. And that's just all awful. And I think that, and I appreciate what you all put on as a police department on Facebook, even though I don't like Facebook. I read it, and I appreciate, and I hope all of us keep Knoxville and the brothers and the sisters in law enforcement in our prayers.
Anyone else?
Real quick, to reiterate, in '81, when I hired in, same way with Tony, everybody carried a different weapon, and it's just not a good mix. Everybody had different shoes too, but that is what it is. Yeah, and just keep that Knox County family in your prayers, that's it.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and add that to the agenda for Tuesday night. Number 5, discussion of resolution 23-10-1001, a resolution calling for a public hearing on the proposed annexation of territory into the city of Kingston by owner consent and approving a plan of services for 1190 Gullahar Road. Tax map 043G, Group A, parcel 1.06. This is something we have to do in order to keep the annexation moving, and I think that the public hearing will be scheduled for November the 14th at 5:45 after this resolution is passed, correct? Yeah.
It's just another step in the process. It's been through the planning commission. I'm assuming that was a unanimous recommendation, so this is just the next step in the process.
Okay. So you want to have any questions?
They don't have sewer out there right now, do they?
No, it's on.
They're tied on.
Yes.
It runs behind the building.
Well, it
Or-
actually
Runs
runs
down that side street.
Yeah, it runs down Murray, but before they completed that, they went ahead and paid the tap fee and went ahead and got on it. There was a tap there already there for them when that sewer was installed during that phase.
Anything else? Okay, we'll add that to the agenda also. Item 6 is discussion of ordinance 2309-1201, an ordinance amending the annual budget for the city of Kingston for fiscal year 2023-2024.
So, as my memo said, I'm just trying to play cleanup and move a few funds around. The $10,000 donation that we got from Rona Alliance, we need to appropriate that for the bass fishing tournament that we just hosted and put that money in place because we got some invoices that are coming in for that. We did receive an invoice from Cumberland Securities for the continuing disclosure requirements on our loan that we did back in November of 21. I was unaware we were going to get that bill, or I would have budgeted $1,500 more in debt service. So I'm just asking if you'll allow me to make up for that, and I will be sure to budget more in debt service next year if we are going to continue with that amount. Also, THSO money, they got that grant money. That's just to reimburse overtime and salaries for the police department, and the fire department had an insurance claim, and they're having to do repairs, so we just need to appropriate that money back to them so that they can pay that cost. And then if you all are good with it, I'll add that 15,000 from fund balance for the police department for those weapons that he had just spoke about. Is that, if that's good with you all?
Yeah, you could probably go ahead and, we don't vote here, so, but you could probably go ahead and add that to it.
For next week,
And
yeah.
if something happens on that vote, we can always strike it off.
Yeah, it would just need to come after.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's fine. I mean, I could wait till next month. I try to do these regularly because it's so much easier to do it and keep up with it all year long than to wait till the end of the year and not know what money's where. But
That'll be fine.
But I'll add it, and if something happens, then I'll go downstairs and make a new amendment for you before the meeting closes.
All right. Any other questions on that ordinance? Okay. Item 7, discussion of purchasing 2 Ford F-150 trucks for water distribution. Mr. Hamilton.
Yeah, so I've got 2 vehicles. I've got a 2008. It's got about a little over 240,000 miles on it. I've got a 2003 that's pushing right at 200,000 miles. Just wanting to sort of replace those trucks with newer trucks, and then I would like to gov deal the existing trucks when the new ones come in. But just trying to update the fleet a little bit. We've not had any new trucks in a while.
Do we have money in the water budget for this?
This doesn't necessarily, because the water account is, or the water fund is such a different beast than the general fund. It has to be taken out of the asset line item for vehicles, and then it's depreciated over the life of the vehicles. So it's kind of a little different than appropriating in a line item. But we do have a asset line item that's taken out. I've referred with, the auditors, and they tell me to do it this way. So it's just a little different for them.
Okay.
It would kind of,
Yes.
Yes, the water department.
and it would kind of be the same, kind of the equivalent of a general fund, taking something out of fund balance. It's coming out of your capital assets. So same kind of thing. And I'll just say when I got here, the water had the newest vehicles of any department in the city, and now they have the oldest, and they've taken good care of them. They've certainly got their money's worth. So good to get them back in the rotation.
Okay. So you want to have any questions on the purchase of the 2 vehicles? Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Well, here's the latest I got. These will be 2024s. They have to be ordered, but they cannot tell me. The Ford dealership says that they can't even tell when they'll be here. Ford doesn't give them that option. You just have to order, and he says one day up out of the blue they'll show up. But Ford don't even tell them when they will be delivered.
Like bucket trucks.
Well, yeah, I was going to
Yeah,
next one.
and here's sort of another thing. I tried to do this in 2023. I started to try and doing this in 2023, but it got into the government bid process. They'd cut that off, so he said you're going to have to wait till 24. And here's another thing: this UAW strike could set us back a little bit. Don't know, but that's really all the information that I can give you that I've been told.
But this is the state bid, Ford Murfreesboro, so.
Yes, sir.
You want 250s, F-250s?
No, I'm just going to go with the F-150s.
One good thing about buying off the state list is that, it's not just 2 trucks.
Right.
It's
They're ordering
2,000.
hundreds and hundreds
Yeah.
of trucks.
Right.
And they'll have them on their lot when they get them, and then disperse them out as the state needs them, so.
And just to be honest with you, Mr. Gwynn, the reason I'm not doing F-250s, we really, in our department, I just think the F-250s are a little bit more money, and I think that's a little bit overkill. We don't need that with us having
I got you.
the dump trucks and stuff like that.
Thank
I
you
got
for
you.
being conservative.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll add that to the agenda also. Item 8, discussion of appropriating $5,000 from the fund balance for the Roane County Heritage Commission for a sponsorship for the Roane Heritage Gala on Saturday night. I was approached by Mr. Henry, and other cities have been sponsoring this, and he asked if we would sponsor it. And I'd like to put it out there for discussion if anyone has any questions about it.
I do.
Yes.
Is it a sponsorship or a donation?
Sponsorship.
That's my fault. I didn't word that correctly, so I wasn't sure how to word that. So that typo is on me.
So, but all the advertisement and all that's already went out for it, for sponsorships.
I am not 100% sure. I tried to.
I guess, will we be represented
Yes.
as a sponsor?
Yes, we will be recognized as a sponsor.
So when it comes up on the, so this is something we're not voting on until after the fact?
Right.
Oof. So
Yep.
how's that work?
It's not like they got to have the money Saturday night.
Okay.
Because I know that, I don't know for sure whether Rockwood and Harriman has also voted to donate money. I know that they told them that they would, but I don't know if they voted on it, depending on when their council meetings are.
I mean, I am all for providing some assistance to the Rhone Heritage Commission, just for the sheer fact of the popularity of the food truck rally that we've been holding there. Two separate sections of the year for rallies, so 8 rallies a year. And our citizens love it, and it brings a lot of people out, and I would love to help them. I would prefer it to be done at budget time with them, with our policy for donations. But that's just me. I definitely want to help them, though. I think it would be a good thing to participate in the restoration of that facility. It's has significant importance to our city. So I just hate that it's done this closely and without asking us for our participation into the last minute. That's the only thing that,
Well, when I was asked, evidently it slipped where they didn't ask us,
Yeah.
in a timely manner.
yeah.
That's not anybody's fault.
I don't think it is.
We're talking sponsors here.
That's why I say I prefer to be done this at budget time with our policy, but, y'all may think differently, and that's fine. But that's not to say I don't want to help them, because I do. It's a little last minute for me.
Mr. Mayor, the only thing I'm worried about is what happens when somebody else comes in next week. And where are you gonna take, I guess you said you're gonna take it out of the fund balance, which is, I think we need to look at, and it's going away from this item, but it speaks to it. We talked once before about setting a line item under donations and setting that at whatever this council wants to set it at, and do just like the county commission does, have them to apply for it, and they gotta be nonprofit, which, of course, Heritage Commission is, but that would fall under the chamber, and set it at, just throwing out a figure at $20,000, and then we say, all right, this one needs so much, this one needs so much, and we got so much left over, we'll save it till next year. But I'm just worried what's gonna happen, and we got in trouble, and I know that a couple of us got people mad at us because we didn't make a donation to ball teams. And they kept throwing out, and I know they did to another member of this body, about why Rockwood does it and why Harriman does it. I don't know, they must not have a policy like we've got.
That I was asked Mr. Ball if they had, and he didn't know either, but they may not. But didn't you kind of acted like that the comptroller wants that policy, or?
Our policy is required by state law, so I can't speak as to why they don't have one, so.
We always ask, what Rockaway Chairman, you know, sometimes asking what they're following their lead isn't the best thing either.
Yeah, to me, a sponsorship is something that you're involved in helping plan an event and be involved with. This is more like a donation to me. And I don't want to go against state policy, but if we're saying that it's a sponsorship, then it's a sponsorship. But I mean, like I said, I'm not. I want to help them. I'd love to give them $5,000. I just want to make sure all the policies are properly followed, because I don't know when the last time we gave a sponsorship. I can't recall ever doing it, and
For the-
I've been here for 6 years, so
You mean for the gala?
for anything.
Okay. Right. Mr. Bowley?
Just, and of course, you know, it's your question to debate whether you do this, but just a little housekeeping. You know, the policy does state that donations have to be appropriated through the budget, and there's that whole policy. If this is a sponsorship, and I don't know, Michelle, I don't know if you know what the current balance. I know you have $15,000 appropriated in your budget for public relation. There are some things that normally goes to, but that would be at your discretion if you wanted to earmark the money from there as opposed to from the fund balance. I just want to throw that out there, that you do have a if you're looking at it as a sponsorship, that may be something you want to consider, as opposed to appropriating or earmarking unappropriated money. So again, just want to give you an alternative there for that.
How much are the tickets? What if we just bought a table? How much are the tickets? That doesn't get it anywhere close to.
No.
Under that deal that you're talking about, I would assume what that would be for is to buy a ticket to something.
I think that would be more appropriate. Buy tickets for the city to participate in the event, and then have them go through the appropriate channels to be able to give them some help at budget time. But
And if I could, we have they do have a consultant they work with to
I've spoken to her.
fundraise. She came to my office, and they were told step by step what to do to request a donation. And
I've
so,
spoken to her as well and gave her the same steps.
Yeah,
And
so-
I've talked to Robert a couple times, so
and
they
did
know
not
that
do
comes
that,
in
so.
February and what that document is. But
Yes, Michelle.
I did look at the public relations line item today with Kelly, because we were talking about the Christmas dinner that we've got to plan, and there's like $12,000 there. I know we've got to keep about $4,500, something like that, for that dinner. So
Probably close to 4,000.
yeah. So there is that. I mean, we do use it for other things at times, but if we get in a bind, I don't know of anything off the top of my head right now, because we have way enough candy for the Christmas parade right now. So, and that's where usually we buy that stuff, but we've been stocking it for a while.
Okay.
So,
That would at least give you a source of appropriated funds if you decide you want to do this.
You know, I'm gonna give my recipe away, but back to that $20-something thousand, you know, I know that I really enjoy the Bassmasters, and that brought in a lot of people. They've come and they've gone. You know, I would like to have something, and I'm gonna throw the disc golf in with this too. You know, we could get the local 100 voters in here, and the 100 people that play disc golf. If this city was just to put up $100 once a month to each one of those groups, to have a organized, whoever the wildcat fishermen are. that
Watts
have-
Bar Kayak
Yeah, somebody
fishermen
like
have already
that.
reached
And
out.
that's where I'm coming from, this 20,000. So, you know, if we can find the money in public relations, then, you know, I've got nothing against that and, about this, but I'm gonna come back, just be ready, I'm gonna come back and ask for some money for those things.
Does anyone else have anything?
So it's a sponsorship we're looking for.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, I'm gonna. Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna do some.
Mayor,
Talking
and
between now and then.
we're not for sure if Harriman or Rockwood has contributed yet, but
I
they
was
have been
told
asked.
They have been asking. They promised them they would.
I just feel like if Harriman and Rockwood contribute, if they and Kingston doesn't, and it's in our city, I just feel like that looks really bad.
It's my understanding they haven't, though.
Not yet, but they have pledged money. Lenore City did also.
Do what?
Lenore City did also.
From what? I'm confused.
Lenore City,
I'm sorry.
Lenore City, Harriman, and Rockwood all said they would give money to the Heritage Commission.
And they voted on it.
Now that I don't know.
I mean, I hate hypotheticals. I'm sorry, David.
Yeah.
You wanna say something?
Not to sound like a broken record, but just to go back to the money part, just something to consider if you were to approve this next week. If you don't take it out of that line item, if you appropriate it out of the fund balance, then that's going to have to go in that budget amendment,
Right.
which will require 2 readings. So it'll be 2 months before that can be done. Those
Okay.
funds could be appropriated. So just something to think about.
Right now, let's put it on the agenda until I can do some phone calls and stuff.
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got to be voted on anyway, so.
Yeah.
And I could add it to this amendment if y'all decided
Had to
that's
bring
what
that
you
up, didn't
wanted to do. I mean,
Okay. Let me,
because I could go down during the beer board meeting real quick and redo this amendment if we have to make a change, if something doesn't go through.
well, we should. I'll know more information tomorrow that I can let everybody know on.
We can
Yeah.
also
I got
amend the
something.
motion and.
Yeah.
and
That's right.
Yeah.
We could
I
add
can
it.
do whatever y'all
We
want to
could
do.
add it to it as amended, no matter what you put up. If it's just like the one you did today, we
Yeah.
could add the 15 and this to it. So
You just let me know.
let me do some.
It can be amended up to the second reading.
And this is the second reading next week.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
this
right.
would be the second
So
reading.
we'll get into that, and I'll let you guys know what I find. I've got some ideas I want to call and talk to them a little bit. Then I'll get back with you guys individually
Great.
this week. All right, number 9 is discussion of absorbing the cost of road bores. Mr. Childs.
Pretty plain and simple, what I'm asking for is if we put a new service to a property, I feel, after talking to several people that talked about the extra charge on it, that if we're going to do the new service, we ought to have it, be able to put it on their property, either on the water and the sewer. And if we need to, we can adjust the tap fee on it. That way it's all in one, because a lot of people, when you go putting in water lines and stuff, time they run from the meter over to their house, and then they're gonna have, they got the board charge on top of it, because eventually it's gonna pay for itself. So that's all I have.
Mr. Hammond, what is a typical bore cost?
For a typical residential bore right now, we're paying $1,000. And of course, as material prices go up, I'm sure that's gonna go up. And like I say, that's just a resident. That's not a commercial property. As y'all all know, that in the past, some of those costs we have absorbed. The board or the utility has absorbed that cost to where it's beneficial to us. I think one of the most recent ones was Sutherland Subaru. Not opposed to Mr. Childs' idea or whatever. I just want to make y'all aware, too, as we're talking about this, that if that is an option that we go through, depending on how many customers that we get that does sign up on this, I just want y'all to be aware when I come back and say, hey, I need more money in my budget to absorb these costs, I guess is what I'm saying.
But eventually, most of the road bores will pay for themselves
As far as
our revenue we got
Water
coming
service.
back.
yes. I mean, of course that's determined by usage,
Right.
So tell me how a road bore works. So for each individual residence, a separate road bore is required?
If the house is on the opposite side of the road from the sewer line, you will have to bore underneath it. The state of Tennessee says that if you put a line underneath that road, it being a certain size, they require you to case that.
Mhm.
So you pretty much have two lines. So you have a casing and then you have that other line in there.
Mhm.
So not every customer is going to have it. It's certain customers depending on their location, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So if
Just
you
if
do-
the house or the residence business, if it's on the other side of the road from the water line, then it has to be bored under.
Right,
Correct.
I
Yeah.
understand that part, but what I mean is, once you get the one road bore across, does it service multiple homes or just that one home?
On the sewer, it would be individuals.
So,
Individual.
so in that, right there, so would we have to do another road bore on the north side of Sutherland if someone bought Michael Dunn and put a business in there?
No, because the way that was done, Mayor, it is actually their sewer line comes into the corner of that property. So if they was to take that, we could come across that.
Okay.
That
So
little-
it's really all dependent on a case by case of what has
that,
to be done.
That is true. It's always been a case by case basis on
That's interesting.
when we've done it, and that's pretty much like I say even on the road boards themselves and the charges. If you need it, if it required it, we charge for that road bore. That's the way it's always been done since I was here.
Yeah.
But not everybody gets that charge unless they have to have that bore.
Mr. Bowley.
And you know, like with the case of Sutherland on Gallagher Road, when we were approached with that, we started looking at it. You know, we looked at what's best for the utility long term, and we knew that side of the road had a lot of potential for future growth, not just the Subaru dealership, but like you said, the Michael Dunn property and maybe even others at some point on that side. So that's why we thought it would be in the best interest of the utility for us to extend our service under the highway to that side of the road, and then as other businesses develop, they can tie in. So we weren't just running it to Sutherland; we were extending service to that side of the road.
But we had a purpose because we had a new, when Duff bought the property and was doing the deal. the car
Correct. And
dealership.
if you look, you know, for example, if it's property that could be developed, whether it be, you know, commercial or large scale residential, multifamily, whatever, you have the potential for several customers.
Right.
So we're not just running it to one house.
Right, that was my,
You know,
that's where I was getting
if
at.
you have the possibility to pick up 10 or 20 houses, like say for example, there was a road that didn't have sewer, and the residents of that road said we want it, and we can run a line under the road to bring all those on, yeah, that's justified, and we could, you know, we've made decisions in the past to absorb that cost to get utilities over there to bring them in. The same thing commercial. You know, we have one car dealership, we have a couple other businesses that could be tied on because we ran that extra service over there. So, you know, in some cases, it's made sense for us to do more than might be needed right away to get future growth, so.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
And I couldn't hear Councilman Chancellor. Are you saying that you're wanting to charge or you don't want to charge? I missed that.
On the board,
Yeah.
I mean, we could take him on the tap fee, raise it up. Several people brought up about the extra charge on the board is on water. Wasn't necessarily sewer, I just said water and sewer. On the water, cause they're having to go under, and then time they run all their stuff and everything, I mean, another $1,000 added on. I didn't know what the board charge was.
Okay, but again, are you wanting to do away with the board charge, or are you wanting them to pay for it and just change the name of it? That's what's confusing me.
That we
What are
absorb
you
the-
proposing, I guess?
That we get the utilities onto the property, one price. If
But
it,
you're still gonna charge them for it?
yeah, cause you got in your tap fee.
And just change it instead, if it's $1,000 and the board fee's $1,500, now it's gonna be $2,500.
The user fee for sewer right now is $1,440. If you tack that 1,000 on there for that bore, that would make it $2,440. The only time that we charge a customer,
If they bore.
if they have to bore. Now, let me add something else to this. If it's a bore that I can do in-house by shooting a hole shot, we do not charge for that. we just do it. But anytime that I have to bring an outside contractor in to do it, that's when they're charged
So-
that, because we do not have the equipment to do it with.
In the same conversation then, let's go to the new places that we've had audience full, and let's just use two of them for example. One of them being the Dunbar property, the sewer is on the opposite side of the road.
Yes.
They have to bore Highway 70.
Correct.
So that's gonna be more than $1,000, so we've quoted them a price now of so much to get it over there.
Don't quote me. I want to think that bore was somewhere in the neighborhood, $27,000.
And then go on up the street, up the curb, we could not, or could we, tie on to that same line that got it across the road to the people that lived on Old Johnson Road, whose water meter was at Highway 70, but his house is 3/4 of a mile down the road, and he was gonna have to run it, his sewer line up and down the hill, and was gonna have 2 pump stations, so he would have to pay a bore fee of the same, I'm assuming, $2,000-something dollars, and I don't think we could hook onto that same one and come up the other side of the road with it.
No, sir. You've got a creek in there that's going to create some problems for you.
Okay.
Mr. Dunbar, when we first started talking about this and he requested a quote, I give him 2 options. I give him a force main, if he wanted to be on the force main or if he wanted to be on gravity. Mr. Dunbar chose he wanted his estimate to reflect a gravity line. Well, yes, but as I stated to him, he said, I want to put a 4-inch line in, and I said, Mr. Dunbar, that's not your choice. That'll be the utilities. And the way it's working is you're going to have an 8-inch line underneath there. With that 8-inch line, it requires a 12-inch casing from TDOT is what they require to be bored underneath that road. So that's part of the substantial amount of cost on his estimate. Going back to the Johnson Valley, with the creek being in the way and the distance, they would have to be 2 separate bores. You couldn't use that.
Let's go to another example that I need some clarification on. Ridgecrest, we just got through.
Correct.
Put it up the left-hand or the right-hand side?
Going up Ridgecrest, it'll be on the right-hand side of the road.
What happens to those people on the left-hand side? They got a bore?
Yes.
Now, do we do that in-house, or do we have to have outside contractors come to that?
They would have to be bored, and an outside contractor would do that. Our choice being is, that's our street. We do not have to require a casing being put underneath the road. So that could shave that cost of $1,000 down to maybe $700. I don't know that. But with it being our road, we could always open cut that road if we wanted to. But it's not required that we have to case it like we do state right of ways.
And the only problem with not casing it is that depending on how deep we have to go, because all of those are gonna be forced, I would assume, aren't they?
Correct.
Some kind of.
Correct.
You know, every time you repave and you run a packing machine over that, you got the possibility of doing it just like you have the same thing you got now with water lines, unless it's, that much of asphalt, you're probably not gonna do it.
Right.
And then you've always got the chance of that dipping. The reason the state requires it is so that the road won't dip. There's something solid there,
We go down and crush the water
go back
line
up to
or sewer
what
line.
we old folks here refer to as poor road. Remember, we got a water line up there that they didn't tamp, they didn't put a good mixture in, they put too big of gravel in it, and nothing lately. But there for about a year, we were having, but anyway, that's another story. I don't know if it helps us any, Randy, to have just changing the name from
Yeah.
Smith to Childs.
Well, what I was under the impression that everybody that was on the other side of the road had to pay the bore, and what was told by several people was, well, they put it on that side, well, they wouldn't have to, and then we have to pay it. And like I said, I didn't know if we could do any of it in-house or if it had to be an outside company.
Yeah, that was the point I was trying to make.
I'm trying to get there.
If one person pays for the bore, how many people are
gonna
Or
benefit from it.
benefit from that,
Yeah.
right? And it sounds like there are so many variables.
There are-
Top of
yeah.
road,
There really,
size of the run that you
there,
gotta do.
there really is, and like I say,
The water probably could go to 2 or 3 different ones if they bore across, but the sewer couldn't.
yeah,
That-
you can split water, but you don't really want to split that sewer. And
Yeah.
if it ever comes down to the fact, in which I think could eventually happen sometime in the near future, that the utilities are going to have to start being more responsible for a lot of that sewer lines, you don't want multiple problems there. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'd really love to come to you and say, hey, let me buy a directional bore machine, and we could just do it all in house.
Yeah.
But we're talking a few $100,000 plus.
Yeah. Mr. Bowley.
A couple things. First of all, one of you mentioned the Dunbar property. That would be one of those that I would consider worth looking at on a case-by-case basis, that maybe we have public involvement in the cost of getting the sewer line there, because we have the potential to add 10, 15, 20 new customers, as opposed to a situation where you might run a sewer line under a road to one house. So again, that's
I would want them on permanent foundations, because anybody can pick up those structures and leave, and then you're left with a big piece of property that maybe somebody just built
Well,
one
and
house
I
on.
just threw that out there for example, but that wasn't the point I wanted. The point I wanted to make was we can't do this as a tap. Our tap fees have to be uniform. We can't have discrepancy, so we couldn't charge somebody more for their tap fee. If we raise the tap fee to absorb that cost, we'd have to raise the tap fee on everybody. So.
Yeah, that's
And-
what I said.
If I can just add one thing to David talking about doing this on a case-by-case basis, and especially the Dunbar property, this is just a little thought that I put in. I could see also where it would be a benefit to maybe negotiate with Mr. Dunbar on that. And the reason I say that is, of course, as we know, going east on 70, once we get up above the top of the hill on 70, it begins Watts Bar Utilities jurisdiction. There's always a scenario that maybe sometime or another that if they ever wanted to provide sewer to that area, that they could always come back down 70 and feed into us right there. Just a thought, and I think for me that could be another benefit for us on the Dunbar case.
And you wouldn't see it as specifically, just like on Gallagher Road, you wouldn't see it specifically as putting sewer on the other side of the road to service the
Right.
Dunbar property, for example. Just like on Gallagher, we didn't run it across the road just for Sutherland. We ran our utility to that side, so there would be future access for
so
multiple.
that was my whole point of my original question. Sewer, you bore it across the road, you'll get multiple benefits out of it. Water is not that way. Is that what you're saying?
Water's the same, but I think the key word that you said is the variables
Yeah.
between water and sewer, and the way you can do
And the
water.
road and
Yeah.
everything.
And the size. I mean, you
Yeah.
gotta look,
Size,
if you run a bore to a specific house, you're going to put in the line to service that. If we do it anywhere as a public project, then we would do an oversized line to handle future growth.
Right.
So it would be a totally different situation. So yeah, if you got anywhere that you have the potential to add multiple customers, it would be in our best interest
Right.
to absorb that cost
There's
to
just
get
no
the sewer.
way of knowing.
Normal situations, you can take a 1-inch water line and feed 2 normal houses.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and we can sit here and we can debate 6-inch, 8-inch, 2-inch, whatever. Us pay for it, contracted, whatever. To better get it, let's just look at it a case by case, and one that I trust that you guys can make that decision on, like the 2-inch bore. You're going to do it yourself. On case by case, and then bring those back to the board to decide. Yes, we're going to pick up 24 homes. We're going to pick up 24 water customers. We can look at it from that point of perspective. Is that good? Is that good with you?
I'm good.
Okay. Everybody else good? Okay. Since that's the last one on the agenda, we'll go around the room. Mr. Childs, do you have anything else?
Nothing.
Mr. Quinn, do you have anything?
No, sir.
Mr. Brown?
Yeah,
Yes, sir, I've got 5 things for you.
Oh, Lord.
Extremely short. One of them, can we get somebody, and I was up there today, the parking across from the Dollar, they patched the parking lot and that kind of stuff. The parking at the Dollar Tree during court dates, they park everywhere, and the trucks that park in there are too long. I would like the chief and Tim and David or whoever, Mr. Bowen, that you could have look at it to see if we can put any signage to make sure that the dually trucks don't park because they block our road. And then from, that road comes in and it narrows, and on the grassy knoll up there, they'll park there and block that street all the way. And I wouldn't even care to have a talk with the county about not parking on our street down that other way, because that's gonna be a busy street. People are gonna try to, just something to look at. I mean, they take up, even the county takes up 2 parking, or 2 car widths on both sides of the road coming down our street. Okay, so just something, especially in the grassy area, was where I was looking at today, that if they're parked there when that place is open, or even if those people park over there when they're not open, we're gonna have problems. The next thing, I would really like to have an update from Mr. Kofer about I went in to have my hearing aids tested again, and that nurse in there, what's gonna happen about the old Texaco station? It's worse, and it's worse, and it's worse, and it's worse.
It has
It's been going on for 7 years. I want something done. Not that I can tell anybody to do anything, but guys, that thing in the middle of Kingston is an eyesore, and it's not getting any better.
Hold on a second. Let's let Mr. Bowling.
Just on that, we had a council order to file suit against that. It was rescinded. We're just waiting on council to come back and tell us what to do. It's going to have to go to court to.
Oh, we can vote on that on Tuesday?
Not our council. He's meaning attorneys, right?
Oh,
No,
council.
No, you guys are going to have to vote
Oh,
to
well, then
tell
it
us
should be
to.
on the agenda on Tuesday.
Okay.
We don't ever take people to court without coming to you all for approval.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's ready to be voted on, then we need to do it.
Yeah, I mean
I
that's
thought you meant, I thought you meant council.
Well, this council will have to give it to that council.
Okay.
But we've done, everything's been done, and I would say you'd agree, Chief probably would too. Everything's been done. We've tried everything to get it cleaned up. It's gonna take court action to.
Okay.
I'm ready to vote on it on Tuesday.
Mr. Washam.
I think it has already been voted on in February 2020.
No, we had to rescind it.
They rescinded a couple months ago.
Yeah, we had to
New
Wait.
council.
But now that you mentioned, I think we voted on it again too.
It was rescinded when Andrew took over.
Yeah.
We didn't, I only know.
Okay, we'll put that on the agenda for next.
Okay.
And a real quick thing, just for your information, we've had a resignation of a member on the 911 board. Miss Marilyn Calfee resigned effective Friday. And then I had a note about sewer updates. I've talked enough about sewer. I think we've answered the biggest part of those. And then my last one would be to the city attorney about the new law. It seems that, I know we've changed it 911, and I'm sure we've changed our meeting formats with our committees. I'm just wondering about this meeting. Where does it fall, a work session, about having roll calls and taking of the minutes and publishing the minutes and having it broadcasted and a place for the public, which we have. But I'm just wondering, does this work session, I know that Sandy always said it did before this new law went into effect July 1. Don't need to know an answer right this very second.
I don't have one at this second,
Good.
but
That's a
I
good
can
answer.
get you one,
Okay.
Mr. Brown. Everything that I've read on this concerns the monthly workshops or the monthly public meetings, but I will certainly dig into this and see if it applies to the workshops as well.
Okay, I just don't wanna, again, if we don't have to, that's wonderful. I just don't want to have somebody to come back on us 6 months when they're mad at us and say, well, y'all talked about that, and I watched it on TV since it's on YouTube now, and yeah, y'all discussed that, and everybody was for it, and then that's exactly, because we tell people to come to the workshop meeting, and they ask when they come in, well, that didn't take long, well, we talked about it in the work session. So, I just don't want us to get in trouble with this, especially with this new law.
Well,
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Ms. Jackson.
Just to let you know, I do minutes for the work session now. So roll call and all that is documented, just like the regular things are.
And
It's just not a vote. I just
We
put
don't
on
take a
here
vote.
That it's, discussed and put on the agenda for the next.
on social media.
yes.
It's just like the regular meetings now.
And Mr. Brown can remember when we didn't have work sessions.
That's
and
right.
Could be here for 2 to 3
We
hours.
Here all night. And
Yeah.
Of course, we do pretty good. We've not been here an hour yet. That's great.
No, we're not done though. Anything else, Mr. Brown?
No, sir. Thank you very much.
Ms. Wright, do you have anything?
I do not.
Ms. Johnson? Ms. Jackson, do you have anything else? Mr. Attorney, do you have anything? Mr. Bowling?
Just one thing, just a question, and I don't mean to put the city attorney on the spot, and if you need to get back to me on this, but Mr. Brown mentioning the service station and filing suit on that. Do we have an update on the Piney Wood? Do we have a new court date on that yet?
Chancellor McFarland still does docket sounding, which is what Chancellor Williams did before. Chancery Court's the only court system that still does docket sounding. So that for the next upcoming term is in 1 or 2 weeks. It's sometime in the middle of October. That way we will get a trial date set for that, and I'll inform council as soon as I do.
Okay. That it? Mr. Hamilton, do you have anything else?
Only thing I got is I just want to let everybody know, we started the tank rehab and reseal on Ladd Landing yesterday, moving along real well. They told me yesterday that they're thinking it might not be as quite as long to get it redone, so they might be looking to move to Morrison Hill sooner than what they anticipated, but hopefully by next week I will have y'all a better update of how we're coming on the progress. That's all.
Ms. Kelly, you have anything? All right, so I said last month that I was going to appoint an ad hoc committee for our 225th celebration, and I've got that committee ready. So I'm going to appoint Tony Brown, Glenda Johnson, I've got it written down for you, Sharon Templeton, Jack Sims, Sonny Hunter, Sandy McPherson, Robert Bailey, and Carly Page. And as I said earlier, just because I've not appointed you to this committee does not mean we cannot come to the meetings and we cannot participate in discussions. I will have Kelly get them emails to them, see when their best time for them to meet. I mean, that would be kind of like herding cats, but and then we can figure it out from when they're going to have meetings set. And Mr. Brown will be chairing the council meeting next Tuesday night because I'll be out of town. Is there anything else we need to talk about tonight? All right, seeing none, this means adjourned.